Okay, so first I just want to use a disclaimer and say that I'm shooting this video at the spur of the moment, and I'm not sure with this camera how good close-ups are going to come out or how it's going to come out at all. I plan on putting it on YouTube, so I want to be a little educational at the same time. So here's the deal. It's how to get from a piece of dirty fired brass from a rifle to a piece of shiny new brass that, or sorry, refinished brass that's ready to reload. So there's basically 10 steps, maybe 8 steps, depending on how you do it, but there's a lot of handling of this brass. Here's the steps in order as the way I do it. First thing I do when I get home is I remove the primer from the pocket, and I wash the brass to get all the grit and gunk out of the inside of the cartridge before putting it into any of the tooling to resize it. Then, after it's dried, I spray it with spray lube. It goes into the resizing die, gets resized. Then I check every piece of brass in a headspace gauge. Yep, sorry, I just hit the camera, which looks like this, if you've never seen one. And you basically just drop the bullet into the cartridge into the headspace gauge, make sure that it's not protruding above the surface or sitting too far below, and you know that the brass is sized correctly. But it could still be, and in most cases is, way too long to go into the rifle. So the next step is it needs to be trimmed. After it's trimmed, it needs to be deburred and chamfered. And then after that, you need to get the gunk out of the primer pocket, so you have to clean the primer pocket. The last 2 steps after that are cleaning the brass in an abrasive like walnut, for example. But if you want it to have a really high polish rather than just be clean, you also need to run it in a tumbler in corncob media. And then you're finally done. So like 10 steps in order to get a piece of brass ready to refire. Well, as I said, the biggest time consumer, the thing that takes the most wear and tear on my hands is the trimming, deburring, and chamfering and pocket primer port. Now, I don't worry about the pocket primers anymore because I bought an ultrasonic cleaner. So after I'm done with everything, I put the brass in an ultrasonic cleaner. That takes care of cleaning the brass and cleans the primer pocket. And if I want it polished, then I still do have to put it in some media to polish it. But back to the trimming process. This is a standard trimming cutter head. I hope you can see it. I'm just not sure how this is coming out on video. And the way it works is the bullet held in the fixture, which you'll see in a minute, goes into over the pilot bit, and it turns and it cuts the brass down to the length that you need it. Of course, this is going to be a pain in the neck and leave the pilot in there. Okay, so that's how. But once you're done trimming it, it really does have a pretty serious burr and on the outside and on the inside. So you need to chamfer the inside by using a tool like this, which involves holding the case, sticking this in, turning it, removing the burr, and making sure that there's a chamfer inside, because you want some chamfered surface to help the bullet guide its way into the case. And then you also want to deburr the outside, which you do with this tool, which you put in here and you turn it on the brass and it takes the burr off. And then you move on to the other processes, which is the primer pocket cleaning and the polishing steps. So anyway, I used to religiously use this cutter. That's all I knew that it existed. And then I needed to replace one because it was dull, and I always like to keep spares around, so I used my last spare and wanted to reorder some for inventory. And when I went online, I found that Rcbs had this thing called a 3-way cutter. Now check this out. I'm going to move the the tripod here and get it on my trimmer, just so you can see. So anyway, here's the trimmer. The left side of the trimmer with the handle and the holder section and and this is the new three-way trimmer. That's the adjustment gauge, and there's the motorized part for the trimmer. But we're focused on this part right here. So I'm going to try raising this up a little bit. Okay, that seems to be working. And so we get a little better angle of the whole thing. Like I said, I'm not making a fancy video here, so take it for what it is. But this is the really cool part. This is the three-way trimmer that I bought, and it cost about twice as much as the standard cutter costs. So, but for twice as much, what you get is a tool that has, instead of a standard pilot in it, it has a pilot that chamfers the inside of the case while it's deburring, while it's trimming, and it also has a tool up here that's adjustable. Looks like a tool that you would see on a metal lathe that actually deburrs the outside of the case all at the same time. So here's how it works. I'm going to do a quick demo on one case just so you can see how it happens. So you pull the handle down, set the brass into the holder. There's a handle over on this side here. I'll take that handle and release it, and that'll move the cutter head into the bullet, and then we'll see what we have when we're done. So hopefully on this video you can see the cutters cutting. You can see the brass falling down off of the cutter head. It doesn't take long, it's just a couple of seconds. It should be finished by now, and done. Now, take it out, and the first thing I'm going to do, which I don't do with every case, I do it with about every 5 or 10 cases, is measure it, and it should measure around 2.005, and I hope you can see on my dial indicator that it's reading exactly 2.005. That's the standard trim length specification for a 308 Winchester. But the really neat part is that if I had done this yesterday or the day before without this three-way cutter, I would now have to use those hand tools that I showed you. I would have to chamfer and deburr the inside of the case. Let's see what we got. I hope you can see this on video. The outside of the case, if you can see this part right here where it's shiny, the reason it's shiny is because the tool has deburred it. And if you can see inside the case, which I don't know if you can, I'm going to try to get the light focused to where maybe you can, maybe have a fighting chance of seeing it, but if you can see inside of the case at all, you'll see that inside is perfectly smooth. There's no burr on the inside, and there's a slight chamfer to help the bullet get into the case. This is the best damn tool I ever bought for reloading. Of anything I own, this trimmer head is by far the biggest time saver and the coolest thing. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, so I only bought one of them. And you know how anal I am, and I like to have lots of spare stuff around. So I went online this morning and I ordered 2 more of these as backups, just in case this wears out. So once again, we just put a case in, set it in there, close it, brass trims off, give it a couple of seconds, done. Outside of the case is deburred, if you can see the shiny part. Inside has a nice chamfer, and like I said, you don't have to check every bullet length, but Anyway, the thing's pretty cool, works great. And if anybody's watching this video who is not somebody who I intentionally send it to, then I would highly recommend that you spend the money to buy one of these and save yourselves a lot of heartache on your hands and a lot of time and energy in deburring and chamfering brass.